Picture this, a quiet, serene forest bathed in the soft glow of the moonlight, but not everything is as peaceful as it seems. Imagine a labyrinth of towering trees untouched by the hands of man. This is no ordinary forest, but a dense, isolated wilderness, where civilization feels like a distant memory. In this solitude, a lone hiker stumbles upon an eerie sight, an old, abandoned cabin, nestled deep within the heart of the woods. Its weathered, rotting timbers tell a tale of forgotten years, its silence echoing with mysteries untold. The windows, once perhaps portals to the world, are now vacant eyes, staring into the void. The very air around the cabin seems to hold its breath, as if whispering caution to our curious hiker. Yet, drawn in by an uncanny allure, he steps forward. As the hiker pushed open the creaky door, an ominous chill swept through the air. Little did he know, he had just stepped into the unknown. Inside the cabin, a gust of wind blew, carrying with it whispers of a forgotten past. The interior of this hidden refuge was shrouded in the dust of time. Cobwebs wove intricate designs in the corners, a testament to the years of abandonment. Furniture that once held life now lay forgotten, their surfaces a graveyard of dust particles. The hiker paused, a shiver coursing through his spine as the wind whistled through the cracks in the cabin. He could almost make out faint whispers, like a half-remembered lullaby, carried on the breeze. He shook his head, laughing off the eerie sensation. It was the wind, he reassured himself. Just the wind playing tricks on his mind. But as he turned to leave this shelter of forgotten memories, a soft whisper breezed through the air, chilling his soul. It was almost imperceptible, a whisper in the wind that echoed, "Don't go." The hiker shook off the eerie feeling and left the cabin, but the forest was not done with him yet. As the hiker ventured deeper into the woods, the world around him began to change. The once familiar path started to twist and turn, as if the forest itself was shifting under his boots. The whispering trees grew silent, as though holding their breath in anticipation of something unseen. Suddenly, the hiker heard a sound. A soft rustling, like footsteps crunching on fallen leaves, echoed behind him. He spun around, his heart pounding in his chest, but there was nothing there. Nothing but the dense undergrowth of the forest, untouched and undisturbed. Shaking his head, he turned back to the path, dismissing the noise as a trick of the wind. But as he continued his journey, he couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't alone. Shadows began to dart in his peripheral vision, like dark figures lurking just out of sight. Each time he turned his head to look, they vanished as quickly as they appeared. Then came the cold. It crept up slowly, a chill that seemed to seep into his bones. The temperature around him dropped drastically, a cold breeze swirling around him. It was a deep, biting cold, the kind that makes your teeth chatter and your breath fog up in the air. It was a cold that didn't belong in the heart of the forest. The hiker wrapped his arms around himself, trying to ward off the chill. But the cold was persistent, wrapping around him like a spectral shroud. He felt it cling to his skin, seep into his clothes, burrow into his marrow. And with the cold came the fear. A primal, instinctual fear. A fear that told him that he was being watched, hunted, stalked by an unseen force that lingered just out of sight. It was a fear that gnawed at his sanity, that made him question every shadow, every sound, every rustle in the leaves. Every step he took, every turn he made, he felt an unseen force watching him, stalking him. As night fell, the forest transformed into a breeding ground for fear, and our hiker was right in the heart of it. The once comforting canopy of trees now seemed like towering monsters, with their branches reaching out like gnarled fingers, ready to snatch him up. The familiar rustling of leaves underfoot now echoed like a chorus of whispers, each whisper carrying an ominous tale of dread. As he ventured deeper into the heart of the forest, his eyes played tricks on him. The shadows danced and swirled, morphing into ghostly apparitions that seemed to be reaching out for him. Each time he blinked, he saw faces twisted in terror, eyes filled with despair. He could swear he could hear their silent screams, their pleas for help resonating in his ears. The whispers, once a faint hum, now roared like a storm in his ears. Each word was a chilling prophecy of doom, each syllable a cold reminder of his impending doom. The wind howled, echoing the whispers, amplifying their chilling effect. The once serene forest was now a symphony of horror, an orchestra playing the haunting melody of fear. In his panic, he tried to escape, to find his way back to the safety of civilization. But the forest was a labyrinth, its paths twisted and turned, leading him deeper into its horrific heart. He was a rat, in a maze, lost and scared, the walls of the maze closing in on him. He could feel the cold breath of fear on his neck, the icy fingers of terror clawing at his sanity. He ran, stumbled, fell, but he kept moving, driven by a primal instinct to survive. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest, each beat a grim reminder of the ticking clock. With every step, the forest seemed to grow darker, the shadows thicker, the whispers louder. He was in the throes of a nightmare, a dream from which he could not wake. With every passing second, the whispers grew louder, the shadows darker, and the feeling of dread more intense. He was face to face with fear, trapped in a forest of horror with no escape in sight. As the haunting reached a fever pitch, the hiker was cornered, with nowhere to run. His heart pounded in his chest, echoing the rhythm of his fear. His breaths came out in ragged gasps, each one a testament to his terror. The air around him became thick and heavy, as if an unseen force had wrapped itself around him. The hiker felt a chill run down his spine, an icy sensation that had nothing to do with the winter air outside. It was as if the cabin itself was alive, breathing and pulsing with an ancient energy. Suddenly, the silence of the cabin was shattered by a voice. It was not a human voice, but something far more sinister, a whisper that seemed to echo from the walls themselves. The unseen entity revealed its identity, not as a mere ghost, but as a malevolent spirit trapped within the confines of the cabin. The spirit spoke, its voice a raspy growl that seemed to reverberate around the room. It blamed the hiker for disturbing its peace, for daring to venture into its hallowed grounds. It spoke of revenge, of a hunger for retribution that had been festering for decades. The hiker listened, his body trembling with a fear that was both primal and profound. He was trapped, caught in the crosshairs of a vengeful spirit with no hope of escape. He could only listen as the spirit detailed its plans, each word dripping with malice and hatred. The cabin around him seemed to shrink, the walls closing in as the spirit's voice grew louder. The air turned colder and the hiker could see his breath fogging up in front of him. The spirit was closing in, its presence a tangible force that was impossible to ignore. As the spirit loomed over him, the hiker felt a cold hand on his shoulder, and just as he was about to turn around, everything went black. His world was swallowed up in darkness, leaving him at the mercy of the unseen terror. His fate was now in the hands of the vengeful spirit, a chilling cliffhanger that leaves us all wondering what will become of our hapless hiker.